It was a special time on the island of Sodor. It was Sodor Day, and the Fat Director had a lot planned. The Fat Director had taken out some of his engines from regular service to be displayed, and Adam, Colin, Lily, and Gordon were one of them. And one day, they were sitting in the hot sun at Wellsworth. Look sharp, fellas. People are gonna take pictures of us, and we must look our best. Ahem. Oh, sorry, Lily. I'm so excited. Sodor Day is one of the best days ever, and the Fat Director says that since it's the end of the week, we'll be having a parade. Yes, and the best part about it is that we'll be having visitors coming. But we always have visitors, Lily. What's so special about these? Well, don't take this from me, but I heard that these visitors are going to write books about us, and we're going to be in them. But I don't want to be in a book, Lily. I like how I am. Not like that, you silly engine. They're going to put illustrations of us in the books. They're probably gonna hire someone or just draw it themselves. Huh! Well, an important engine like me is gonna have the most to talk about in those books. I have achieved many great things. And what's there that's so significant to be talked about you? The only thing I can think about is burst safety valves, or engines getting stuck on hills. Well, little Adam, that's a lot of talk from an engine who barely had an impact on this island. Unless if you count crashing into trucks filled with paint, or falling into turntables, well. You two probably won't even make it in the books if you continue to act like that. Now shut up. You know what? Lily is right. It's Sodor Day, and we should celebrate it by all happy thoughts and happy memories. Oh, why bless me. Gordon, is that you? I never expected to see you. How are you, old friend? Alfred, you scoundrel. What's the matter? Is the other railway having a hard time keeping up with your demands? Took them long enough. Very funny, Gordon. But no, I'm here to drop off a very special train filled with very rowdy visitors. All for you, I'm surprised. I wonder why would anyone want to see you? Now this guy speaks my language. Adam, shut up, or I'll tear your smoke box off. So, Alfred, why'd they choose you to pull the train? You haven't set a wheel in this island for a very long time. While the engines exchanged pleasantries, a crowd of happy passengers exited the coaches and surrounded around the four engines. While the engines talked to the people who surrounded them, through the crowd came a little boy, and his father chased suit.
Daddy, look, it's a train! A blue train!
Yes, Christopher, it's a train. I'm so sorry. He's only 6 years old. That's quite alright. We have many rail fans who have done crazier things, so this is quite normal for us. Wow, for anthropomorphic engines, you speak really well. No offense. Say, would you have any stories to entertain my son while we are here? Gordon pondered for a moment, but before he could come up with an answer, Adam was already recalling the time when Edward was let out of the sheds and had to help Gordon up the hill, or when Gordon's safety valve burst and Edward and Henry had to pull the express. Christopher seemed very intrigued in the stories, while Gordon just scowled. Alfred couldn't help but pop a chuckle. There's nothing to be ashamed of, Gordon. It could happen to any engine. High spirits, don't you know it, laughed Gordon. Well, if we're done with the recap, I want to ask, Gordon, do you have any stories from when you worked on the Great Northern Railway? You haven't really talked much about your old life. Oh, please don't get him started, Colin. I don't want him talking about when I was young and green all day. I think my smoke box hurts enough. You have no sense for storytelling, Lily. And you know what? I might as well tell you a few stories. It is a very special occasion. Now, let me begin. When I was young and green, Gordon started, and this is the story he told. Back then, I was painted in an apple green livery with the rest of the engines on my line, with some exceptions, of course. And this story begins one early morning when I've just awoke to greet my colleagues good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Gordon. How was your sleep last night? Dream about anything interesting? Not really, but it was a really relaxing and peaceful night, so I slept really good. What about you? My night was pretty well too, Gordon. Say, do you happen to know what time it is? We might need to wake up the others for work. I would say it's 6 a.m. right now. Perfect. What a reasonable time to wake up, everyone. Everyone, wake up! We have loads of work to do today, and it won't get done if you bellheads continue to sleep. Get up! Oh, okay, Alfred, just calm down. What time is it right now? I believe it's 6 in the morning. A perfectly good time to wake up and freshen up and get ready for work. You woke us up at 6 in the morning? Alfred, this is too early to wake up. We have plenty of time before work starts. Oh my god, you're such a nuisance. Haven't you ever heard of the saying, early bird gets the worm? Be quiet already. Oh, you don't understand. And Cecil, what time do you call this? I think I've taught you the importance of being early. I thought you meant that as in I had to be early at every station. No, us LNER Beachels have standards to keep up, and that means being early at everything possible. I better not catch you slacking off like this. Don't be so hard on the bloke, Alfred. Cecil has been working very hard recently. He's at least inclined to a proper night's rest. You know what? You're right, Gordon. I shouldn't be so angry on a wonderful day like this. The controller promised me the first express train of the day today. What do you mean he promised you the express? I thought he promised it to me today. No, he promised it to me today, Gordon. You're for tomorrow. We shall see about that. I'm gonna go to the station and get this sorted out. Fine, I'll come with you, and you'll see that the controller gave me the express for today, not you. You see, I was right. The controller said I was to pull the first express train today. And I still don't understand why he didn't get an engine like me to pull the train today. Can you two please stop fighting? It's just a stupid express train. I don't want to have to listen to you fighting. And who said they wanted to listen to you, Cecil? Absolutely nobody. So I'd be quiet if I was you. Still, it is absolutely preposterous to make an engine like you pull a train of such standards. You'll probably run out of coal or water, or who knows, maybe even a leaky tank. But just like you said, why should I complain on such a beautiful and wonderful day? And why is it going to be such a wonderful day for you, Gordon? Well, I was just reminded of the special train that the controller was adamant that I pull, which outweighs your express. Give it a rest already, you two. I cannot believe how two proud express engines are arguing about such outlandish stuff. Really? I certainly can, Fred. These two toilets on wheels are always arguing about this or that. But oh well, what's to be expected from two idiots who are painted in the same ugly green and who always pull express trains at high speeds? I think the wind is messing with their smoke boxes. Now I better dash. Unfortunately, I don't have as much time to argue in stations like you two. Ta-ta! I better go too. I have more important work to do. Later, Gordon was at the last station of the line and was waiting for his coaches to be shunted. He was there with Cecil, who was waiting in a siding. So, Gordon, you excited for your special train? It's not all that special. I only told that to make Alfred jealous, and I guess it worked. But yeah, I guess you could say so. I'm just waiting for Ryan with a passenger train he's pulling. Oh, okay. And when is he supposed to arrive? Well, he was supposed to be here 15 minutes ago, but he's running late. Huh. Never trust an engine called Ryan, I say. Eventually, a puffing noise could be heard from behind. It was poor Ryan. He was out of breath and scrambled into the station. Sorry I'm late, Gordon. There were some complications at the junction. Whew, and I left late. I tried my best to make up for lost time, but to no avail. This will never do, little Ryan. You're 15 minutes late. I don't boast, but whenever a proud express engine such as I is late, I give a jolly good effort to be right on time, and you, well, you failed miserably. And anyways, why do you have trucks coupled behind you? You're not pulling a freight train, you're pulling a passenger train. Coaches and trucks don't mix, little Ryan. Sorry, Gordon. Alaric broke down, and someone needed to pull his train, so I offered. Well, so this is what held you up at the junction, isn't it, little Ryan? Absolutely preposterous. Soon enough, Gordon's coaches rolled into the platform, but the engine who was shunting them accidentally bumped Gordon. A bit smoother shunting would be greatly appreciated. The engine just groaned to himself and quickly scampered off to avoid any more backlash from the big green engine. I swear, one day, these little engines are gonna drive me crazy. And from one final angry comment from Gordon, he finally puffed off. Finally, Gordon arrived at his destination, which was Vickerstown Station on the island of Sodor, and a man wearing a tall top hat was awaiting him at the platform. Welcome to the island of Sodor, the man started. I'm Sir Topham Hatt, and I'm very pleased to see that you arrived safe and sound. Did you encounter any trouble along the way? No, I did not, sir, said Gordon. The trip went smoothly. That's great to hear. I hope you enjoy your stay here. What's your name again? Gordon's the name, sir. One of Gresley's finest engines. Well, alright then, Gordon. Welcome to the Northwestern Railway. And I, the Fat Director, am the controller of the railway. And look, here comes my engine Edward. He'll escort you to your shed. Now run along, you two. I don't have time to be... sir, sorry for the intrusion, but there's a problem in the yards. And what kind of problem may this be, my good man? Well, there's a freight train that has to leave the yards in a few minutes, and we don't have an engine to pull it. Edward can't certainly pull it, and Henry's being held up at Knapford. The fat director pondered for a moment, and finally, he turned his attention to Gordon. Ah, Gordon. I understand that you're a visitor, but the situation is very dire, so could you please take this freight train all the way to Knapford? I'll have Edward come with you. Gordon pondered for a second. On one buffer, a grand engine such as himself should never pull dirty trucks from dirty sidings, but on the other hand, he didn't want to disappoint the already nice man. So, he finally concluded and agreed to pull the train. Gordon slinked up to the yard with a very grumpy expression on his face. He was not pleased at all to pull a dirty freight train. Edward noticed Gordon's already unhappy expression and tried to comfort him. "Never mind, Gordon," he started. "We usually don't make visitors do jobs for us. But the situation was very dire, you know, and at least in the end you can get a nice long rest." Gordon loudly groaned. "Let's just get this over with. I don't want to waste time." Eventually, Gordon was coupled up to the train, and a very tired Edward puffed up alongside him. "Phew, that train was heavy," said Edward. "You're going to need help by a train that size. You're never gonna make it up the hill." "Thank you, but no thank you. I'm positive I can make it up the hill myself. But you can tag along if you want, little Edward. Come for the ride, you know." "Are you sure, Gordon? The hill is very steep, and the trucks are bound to cause you trouble." "I'm very sure, Edward. I'll make it up the hill, no problem. I'll show you." And Gordon puffed away with the train. The two engines made their way with the freight train. Gordon was still grumbling to himself, while Edward just followed behind. The trucks weren't causing much problems for Gordon, but I'm sorry to say that wouldn't last for long. They soon arrived at the hill, and Gordon immediately started boasting to Edward. "Look at me, little Edward. Stand down there and watch me as I climb this hill with no problems at all." Edward just scowled at the green engine and decided to stay and watch. At first, Gordon found it quite easy. "Look at me, little Edward. No problems at all." But the problems would soon start. The truck started to hold Gordon back, and Gordon heaved and he pulled, but he was starting to struggle. Gordon was quite confused. "What has happened to me?" he thought. "The trucks had brought me to a standstill. A grand engine such as myself?" "Yes, Gordon," laughed Edward as he climbed the hill. "They have brought you to a standstill, and I'm quite surprised that a big and strong engine like you got stuck." Gordon felt quite embarrassed at Edward's comments and turned red in the face. Later that day, after Edward helped Gordon up the hill, they were resting at Knapford Station, and Edward was trying to talk to Gordon, but Gordon was too embarrassed to talk. But before Edward could say anything else, a very sad Henry approached the station. He had seen better days, and was hooting and wheezing into the station as the coaches clattered behind him. Poor Henry, thought Edward sadly, but Gordon had the quite opposite reaction. He was looking at Henry intently. Later that evening, Edward, Henry, and Thomas were at the sheds, but Thomas and Henry weren't really being friends at that moment. Silly yourself. There's nothing wrong with your system, Henry. You're just too fat. You need exercise. Henry just laughed. Ha! I don't need exercise. You need exercise, Thomas. You have that big old bunker behind you and nothing to show for it. I wonder how you get up hills with it. I get up hills quite fine, Henry, thank you very much. And I wouldn't be talking about bunkers when you got that big old tender behind you. It's probably what's causing all of your problems. Alright, settle down, you two, Edward interrupted. We have a visitor staying with us tonight, and I don't think he would appreciate some loud engines keeping him up all night. I don't care if we have a visitor. I'd rather keep the whole island up just to prove Henry wrong. But Thomas reckoned without Gordon. As Gordon reversed into the sheds, he was on the same line as Thomas, but Gordon couldn't see anything, as Thomas watched in horror. Why is he backing up into me? Stop! Ow! Ouch! That's hurt! Thomas cried out in pain. What was that for? A little while later, after the whole ordeal was cleaned up, Thomas moved to a different part of the shed. He was angry, as Gordon took his spot, and he fumed to himself quietly. Well, now that that's out of the way, Gordon started awkwardly, I have a question for the big green fellow next to the blue engine, Edward. Yes, that would be me. What's your question? What type of engine are you? Well, I don't really have a specific class of engine. I'm more of an experimental engine. I'm one of a kind. Well, you see, what's interesting is, you look a lot like me and some of the other engines of my class. And, funnily enough, there was a scandal at Doncaster that some drawings from Gresley were stolen. Really? Well, now that you do mention it, we do have a pretty similar shape. Huh, small world. Huh, you're right, what a small world. And what's even funnier is that the stolen drawings were an experimental engine, and they looked similar to me and the Gresley A1s. And I think whoever built you was the person who stole the drawings, which only means that you are a failed engine, and you're just a mere shadow of us Gresley A1s. No wonder you performed badly, you disgrace. Henry looked sad at Gordon's words, and merely just looked down on his buffers. Thomas wasn't all that crazy about Henry, but he was still salty towards Gordon, and coupled with his rude words towards Henry, he wanted to pay Gordon out, but he wouldn't need to move a wheel. The next day, the engines were soundly sleeping in their shed, when suddenly, the firelighter came to light up Henry's fire for work. Henry had to take a fish train to Vicarstown, but there was a problem. The firelighter couldn't tell which engine was Henry. He had forgotten his glasses and he has a severe vision problem. Before, if he forgot his glasses, he could just tell Thomas and Edward apart from Henry, but he didn't know now who was Henry and who was Gordon. Ultimately, he just went to go light the fire of the engine who he thought was Henry, and climbed in the engine's cab. A little while later, when it was time for Henry to pull his fish train, his driver and fireman arrived, but they were quite surprised to find that their engine wasn't fired up. They were quite puzzled until they realized the wrong engine was lit. After a few calls with the fat director, and a few calls with Gordon's owner, it was finally decided that Gordon would have to pull the fish train. Gordon was not happy, and angrily puffed out of the sheds. When Gordon arrived at the harbor, he was quite displeased to find a very stinky fish train was waiting for him. When it was finally time for Gordon to leave, he was still feeling very cross. Ha! Silly fish train, silly island, silly everything, he groaned. He returned to the other railway still very disgruntled about the island, and openly spoke so. I cannot believe all the disgraceful things that happened on that wretched island. First, I have to pull a freight train, and second of all, I embarrassed myself by getting stuck on the hill, and then I have to pull a stinky fish train. All the engines sympathize for Gordon. Well, it's absolutely shocking. How they have to rely on visiting engines to keep open, it baffles me. We have a fleet of strong and fast express engines. And what do they have? A few measly engines? Ha, don't make me laugh. Well, I'm really sorry for what happened to you there, Gordon, said another engine. But freight isn't really all that bad. I mean, I sometimes pull it. And after that day, nothing more was said about the island until a few months later. One day, their manager arrived with a man that looked very familiar to Gordon, but he couldn't quite put his buffers on it. Here they are, sir, their manager started. Some of the mainline engines in my current roster. The man looked very intrigued. A nice selection of engines. Very much so, the manager went on. I'll introduce you to some of them. First we have our two B-12s, Alfred and Cecil. Both of them are pretty good performers, with some hiccups here and there, but all in all, they're pretty well engines. And here, we have our LNER 02. His name is Alaric. He's a pretty sturdy freight engine, and with some speed towards him, he could be used both on freight and passenger. And here, we have an LNER V2. Nothing much to say about this engine, and he's a pretty good runner on the rails, a real looker too. And finally, here we have the prototype engine for our LNER A1s. He's a pretty fast engine with a long-lasting fuel supply, and he has some pretty good strength to him. I just don't know. All of them are great engines, but I think my interest is really in the prototype engine for the LNER A1. I think I will purchase him. Fire him up, my good man. All the engines whistled for Gordon. They were very happy for their friend, and so was Gordon. And from that day on, I was an official member of the Northwestern Railway, without even knowing it, Gordon laughed. Of course, when I first arrived, it was a bit of a rocky start, but I eventually became friends with everyone on the railway, people and engines. Well, that certainly was an interesting story, and thank you for sharing it to us, Gordon. Yes, Gordon, it was quite a charming story, and one that will be remembered by all of your LNER colleagues. We all miss you, Gordon. I'm sorry, Alfred. I would love to stay and chat, but I have to go somewhere with my friends. You can come with us too. Well, Alfred, my old friend, it's really been a real one. Same could be said for you, Gordon. I know we used to bicker a lot back on the Great Northern Railway, but I think it's time we finally put our rivalry at rest. See you around, Gordon.